Hello everyone, and welcome to Galaxy 89 Cars. Today, thanks to Arcian Corporation, I'm taking you on an in-depth exterior and interior tour and exhaust sound video of this 2021 McLaren 765 LT. Arcian Corporation have this and many other high specification vehicles for sale at the time of publishing, and all of their contact details can be found in the description of the video. The 765 is McLaren's latest LT or long-tail model that joins only a handful of other cars and represents McLaren's lightweight track-focused range. This car is based on the 720S and is McLaren's latest high-performance Super Series model that brings with it more power, more aero and less weight, and I will cover all of this as we progress with the video. As this is a development on the 720S, I will make comparisons to it throughout the video. Based on the carbon monocage 2 monocoque, 765 LT comes in at 4,600mm long, 54mm longer than 720S, 2,161mm wide as 720S, 1,193mm high, 6mm lower than 720S, with a din weight, that's including fluids plus 90% fuel, of 1339kg, 80kg less than 720S. We can now move to the car's power plant. This is where I'd usually view the engine itself, but the engine can't be viewed here unfortunately. 765 LT is powered by an uprated version of the engine found in 720S, a rear mid-mounted 4-litre twin-scroll turbocharged V8. It produces 755 brake horsepower, 45 brake horsepower more than 720S, and 800 Nm of torque, 30 Nm more than 720S, all sent to the rear wheels. This output produces a 0 to 62 mph or 100 km/h time of 2.8 seconds, 1/10 faster than 720S, 0 to 124 mph or 200 km/h in 7 seconds, and a top speed of 205 mph, 7 mph slower than 720S. Now moving down to the corners, we find the standard 10-spoke lightweight forged alloy wheels, here finished in the optional gloss black, 19 inches at the front and 20 at the rear. Stability is provided by front and rear double wishbones and adaptive dampers that are controlled using the car's proactive chassis control 2 software. At the rear, we find an open differential for a more dynamic and controlled drive. This differential can also apply brake steer in place of torque vectoring for sharper turning. Now we've finished with the model overview, we can start the in-depth exterior tour from front to rear, making references to 720S as we go. 765 LT comes with a new front section that starts with a heavily revised splitter, providing more front downforce. The front park assist camera still sits centrally, but the large side air channels are now broken up by new fins that travel in the opposite direction of the lines on 720S. These new fins wrap around the sides, where we find winglets to improve airflow along the side of the car. Just above these we come to the lateral air outlets, topped by an indicator. These carry over from 720S. Moving back to the front, and we come to the same innovative lights as found in 720S, that allows more air to pass into the radiators. These are formed from a daytime LED strip centrally, and a main beam strip above and further back. Behind these we come to the bonnet, here finished in contrast exposed carbon. These vents on either side are carried over from 720S. Continuing laterally, we find new wheel arch louvers that help to release air from the wheel arches, therefore reducing pressure. Looking from underneath, we see how these come with mesh undersides and are actually functional. Then moving back around and further back, we arrive at the same windscreen with its 2 wipers below. As we continue back, we come to the roof, where we find the lightweight gloss carbon here without the Gorilla Glass, thus lowering the centre of gravity for further stability. Moving down, we can now view the car's lateral aspect. The flush sides from 720S have been changed with the addition of new extended side skirts to further enhance lateral airflow. These start with canards, they help to channel air along the skirt and into the enlarged intakes at the rear. Moving up, we find the same large side channels as in 720S, that take air from the front wheel arches and sensors along the car. Above the front channels, we come to the car's electrically adjustable wing mirrors, here finished in the optional carbon. These come with park assist cameras that are underneath. Now moving along the side of the car, we eventually come to the fuel tank flap, that can be opened with a light depress after unlocking the car. 765 LT has a fuel tank capacity of 72 litres and returns a combined MPG of 12.3. Moving up, we find the same air channels that bring air from over the sides of the bonnet and into the rear air vents. Continuing around, and we come to the elegant sloping tinted rear window that joins the new gloss black engine cover and new hexagonal grille behind. On either side, we find the same thin, long vents and gloss black channels that help the engine to cool. At the rear of these structures, we find, as with all LT models, the extended active rear wing, here finished in the optional carbon. This structure was smooth in 720S, but here comes the two extended sections on either side to further enhance rear downforce. Underneath, we still find an LED brake light. The rear below the wing has been reformed to accommodate the new quad exhaust outlets. This includes the new thicker hexagonal design mesh. On either side, we find the same thin LED brake light complexes. The area below has also been redesigned. The reversing camera remains above, but now we find more grilles below. On either side of the rear wheel arches, we also find new canards that aid rear airflow. These are joined to the new rear bumper that now curls around to meet the bottom of the canard. Below, we find a much more aggressive race-inspired diffuser that comes with small wings on its inner edge. All of these changes means that 765LT produces 25% more downforce than 720S. Now we've finished the exterior tour, we can move inside. 765LT comes with the same key as 720S, with buttons to lock, unlock and to open the bonnet. On the other side we find gloss black carbon and model insignia, an MSO option I believe. Moving in, the door release is on the inside of the aero panel and needs to be pressed to release the dihedral door. Just as with the exterior, the interior here has been optioned with MSO. Generally, the interior of 765LT features only a few key differences to 720S, and I'll cover all of these in detail as we progress through the video. We can start the interior tour with the doors. Made from a mixture of carbon and pressed fibre, the doors start with the same flat panel as in 720S, here upholstered in Alcantara with contrast stitching. Below this, a slim strip, finished in the optional carbon, runs along and down, acting as a border between the upper and lower segments. Underneath, the next Alcantara panel comes with the armrest and first speaker from the optional 12-speaker Bowers & Wilkins system integrated into it. Moving further into the integrated armrest, we find the electric window controls, door release and door handle. To find the final bottom on the door, we have to look underneath, where we find the button for tow preparation. 765LT's ride height has been dropped by 5mm at the front to 100mm. Moving inside, we can see how the car has a very well defined sill, part of its carbon monocoque, but thanks to the way the doors open, ingress and egress was still very straightforward. The sill area begins with a manual door release on the Alcantara pad. Soon after, we join the carbon sill itself as we move down, and find 765LT emblazoned on the side. Moving up and to the left, we come to the electric parking brake and exterior light controls. Then the button to flip the screen, interior lock, and to open the bonnet, with the first manually adjustable air vent above. To the left of these buttons, we come to the MSO spec steering wheel. It starts with a carbon top, an MSO option, with Alcantara around the 903 grip positions, more carbon below, and the compact airbag centrally. Just behind the wheel are the extended carbon gearshift paddles from the car's 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, known as seamless shift at McLaren. Below the wheel are rods to move through the screen option menu, the vehicle lift, and voice commands, with a button for the parking sensors and wheel movement to the left. The car can now be started by pressing the red engine on off button in the central column. We can now hear 765LT's sports exhaust in both normal and sport modes, and then see the front and rear indicators. Now back inside, we can go through the car's screen displays. This display is unchanged from 720S, and is currently displaying its comfort screen here. From left to right, we start with the trip and nav, central speedo and selected gear to the right, with revs encircling them. Finally, we find ride height status, oil and engine temperature, fuel level, and handling and powertrain active dynamic status. After pressing the button for active dynamics, we can choose from 3 different driving modes, which subsequently change the display screens here. The first is comfort, then sport that sorts the speedo in selected gear and adds tyre pressure to the left. Then track that causes the screen to fold away, only leaving a very basic track-focused display for gear, revs and speed. To bring the screen back to its original position, the user simply needs to change the powertrain rotary back to sport, or press the button we saw earlier. Moving back to the dash, and we find the same flowing forms around the driver's side, optional tweeter centrally, and a much smoother area to the left. Returning to the centre and then moving down, we come to the 7-inch touchscreen from the 720S, here surrounded by optional carbon. Looking at the individual options one by one, we can start with phone for calls, messages and contacts via Bluetooth to the user's mobile phone. Media comes after for media from external devices via AUX, USB and Bluetooth. Moving down, the next thing we come to is the navigation system. That is by far the most responsive McLaren system I've used. The digital FM and AM radio is next, where stations can be easily accessed with touch controls. Next, we find the optional track telemetry system that adds an additional camera to help record the driver's track performance that can be stored on the system for analysis. Variable drift control comes after. This system aids the driver in providing more flexible assistance systems that still carefully watch input to ensure the car is stable during exuberant driving. The single view wide lens reversing camera comes after, with the digital copy of the owner's handbook being the penultimate option screen. .765LT comes with dual zone climate control, with controls that can be accessed on either side of this screen. Venting for the front and rear windows can be found between them. The gear icon at the top of the screen opens settings that include sound, lighting, vehicle, time and date, and account setup. Moving into lighting, and we can adjust the brightness and colour of the car's ambient lighting, which can be seen in various places around the cabin. Now moving to the features found around the infotainment display, we start with the two air vents, then the active dynamics panel where the wing can be raised and the car's handling and powertrain can be adjusted with the stop-start below. Below the screen we find direct access controls for the infotainment system, phone, radio, nav, the MTC menu scroller, fan, media and mute, with the red engine on-off button below. Continuing down we come to the gear selection buttons for drive, neutral and reverse, with buttons for hazard lights and launch control. Under the floating column we find a 12-volt socket and two shallow storage areas. Moving around and we come to another shallow storage area or cup holder with another large area behind it with two USB inputs and a single aux input. This area is covered by a lid or armrest in 720S. Continuing back and we begin to move upwards towards the rear window, first coming to netting and then the expansive rear storage area, here not interrupted by the MSO snorkel that can be spec'd. Here, the optional super lightweight center seats have been optioned that weigh just 3.35 kilograms each, a 33% weight reduction over the sports seats. These can be fixed into different slots on their racks to adjust height, but do not tilt, and can be moved back and forth using the bar under the front. Moving the driver's seat forward, we can get a better view of the additional speakers at the rear, netting, and just how deep and open the rear area is, holding up to 210 litres of capacity. Now we've finished the majority of the interior, we can move to the car's main storage area that can be opened using the button on the key or on the dash. As with other McLarens, a single press completely unlocks the bonnet, so no latch needs to be searched for. The front boot is unchanged from 720S and has a capacity of 150 litres. Taking a closer look, we find the plastic covers for various fluid pots, then netting to the left holding the warning triangle, optional fire extinguisher, air intake and power input, and the first aid kit. This car also comes with the optional car cover, seen here. Once finished, the lightweight bonnet can be easily lowered and secured with a light press to the front. Moving back inside briefly, we can view the car's final few features. There are quite large sun visors on either side with vanity mirrors. Between them, we find the microphones for the hands-free system, and interior lighting and their controls, with the auto-dimming rearview mirror below. So that concludes my in-depth exterior and interior tour of this 2021 McLaren 765LT. That's a sale at the time of publishing with Arteon Corporation. You can find all of their contact details in the description of the video. Please subscribe for the latest content, and until next time, thanks for watching.